All right, it's the week of December 10th, and it's demo time. So I'm going to cover really quickly some things that are exciting my mind. The first thing that I want to cover in the category of exciting my mind is why I plan to keep going with all this artificial intelligence stuff. Had a chance to really think about a lot of that this weekend. First reason why is we're way past the hype cycle here, at least in my humble opinion. I don't know everything in the world, but I do feel like we've already rounded the bend or turned the corner on all of this, from it being sort of a gigantic hype to I'm really starting to realize how profoundly different our world will be because of artificial intelligence and the pace that it's moving at. To give you an example, there are tools that I use every day. Here are just a few of the favorites that I have currently, and this list grows almost weekly. I use ChatGPT for voice chats on my phone. That's a great way for me to think aloud and get rapid feedback. Having questions asked of me back from ChatGPT using voice chat, and I can also ask for a summary of the entire conversation to be given back to me in a format that I can cut and paste and put into another document or presentation or anything like that. Grammarly, I use the generative tool and have for many years. Now they have the generative tool. I've been using Grammarly for several years to improve my writing, to simplify my writing, to make suggestions, to tighten up the grammar, to tighten up the spelling. It's just been a really powerful tool, in so much that I've paid for an annual subscription now, I think for about 5 years, almost now, 4 or 5. Photoshop Generative Fill, I use every time I sit down and I'm working on new art work. I'm using that tool. It's so powerful to clean things up, and a lot of the manual things that I used to have to do in Photoshop are now gone. I use Adobe Podcasts. The audio that you're hearing right now, I have a very inexpensive mic, but it sounds like, when you're listening to this video, that I have production level or production quality audio, and that's because of Adobe Podcasts. They use artificial intelligence to clean up and enhance audio files. And so I strip the audio out of the video, upload it to Adobe Podcast, have it cleaned up and enhanced, and then I pull the audio file back down and drop it back into the video. Cool stuff. I definitely use Bard in Google Drive. So if I'm trying to summarize a document, a PDF, or if somebody sends me a doc that's really thick with information and I want to get the gist from chapter to chapter or something like that, I will do that on my local drive. And then, of course, I use Leonardo AI almost every day of the week, but definitely weekly, to generate new artwork. Those are just a few of the favorites. I watch YouTube AI news almost daily at this point, because it's moving so fast and there are so many great tools coming out, so many advancements with the large language models. I was listening last night to a person who I follow their YouTube channel often, and they're really knowledgeable with AI. And it turns out that some of the open versions of large language models are hot on the trail of delivering GPT-3 level generative content. And so it won't be long before it's even more available. I don't know if that's a great thing just yet, because there's a lot of things that make me nervous about the open versions of what, like, OpenAI and Microsoft and Google and Anthropic and other companies are doing. Imagining that, putting that into the hands of anybody to use it any way they see fit, makes me a little uncomfortable when it's open like that. But I certainly understand the power of open software development and open engineering. but it's almost at the same level. And next year we should have an open version, open source, that's as powerful as what we're using now. This is a big one. Why I keep going is because every time I sit down to do this stuff, I'm upskilling while I'm playing and experimenting. So I'm developing new skills every time I work with this, whether it's around prompting, around leveraging the tools, around multimodal, around summarizing, capturing things quicker than I did in the past. And the reason that I'm doing that is I want to stay relevant. I refuse to get left behind in all of this. It's not just because I'm getting older, but because I really see the impact that this is going to have on certain tasks that people perform in business and their personal lives. And I see a really huge opportunity to be in the middle of that conversation and be relevant from a career standpoint. I'm sort of riding this wave as we go. And I would say I'm not the earliest of adopters. I've always been an early adopter, but I'm kind of in line behind the earliest adopters. So there are a few people that I'm really listening to the video content that they put out and reading their blogs and subscribing to their newsletters because they're really further down the path than me, and they're helping me understand what I need to pay attention to and be aware of. And as I mentioned, I'm trying to not future-proof, don't know how to future-proof my career, but I am future-forwarding myself so that over the next several years, I've got the right skill sets to be playing in this AI arena, no matter what part of technology I'm focused on, or design, or art. Those are the big reasons. What else is exciting my mind? Magnific for upscaling images. I think I talked in a previous video about how I use Topaz, a tool to upscale images. It's called Gigapixel. I couldn't think of the name. I thought of it. Magnific is a web-based service that allows you to do some amazing upscaling of images. And if you're not familiar with upscaling, you can take any of the artwork that you might generate, let's say on Midjourney or DALL-E or Leonardo AI like I do. You can take the highest quality image that you get from that tool or that service, and then you can use artificial intelligence to upscale it so that it can double and triple, or some instances, several of these tools will times 4, times 6. But what that does is it gives you an incredibly high quality to the images. And I'll show you really quickly what I mean about the difference in that. And I think this is amazing because it just adds so much depth and texture and detail to images. But there is something that I want to caution you with. So let's take a look. If you go out to Magnific, you can, by signing up with like a Google account or an email account, you get 50 credits, I think is what I had when I did it, and I've already spent them. Which was, I think, about 5 images, so 10 credits per image to upscale them. And I already had some really high quality images, but I wanted to double them and see what could be done. And if you look on their site, I wish I could demo one real time, but I don't have an account, and I'm holding off because I'll get to that in just a second. There's a cost that goes along with this. But let's just say, let's take a quick look at the before and after. Hopefully this translates well in the video, but you can play around with these sliders on their site and see the difference. But let's say you have the image here on the right hand of the girl. Looks like kind of a Star Wars character or something. This is a high quality image before, and then if you pass it over, it just adds an incredible amount of depth and texture and skin tones and detail to hair, and does amazing things even to blurred out or bokeh backgrounds too. But the thing that I'll caution you with is it does hallucinate a little bit in that it will create new details that weren't in the new image. I don't know if you can tell here, but this is kind of a softer focus. even though it's a high quality image, when you go in, you start to see new details. The eyes change a little bit, the eyelashes change a little bit, the lip pattern changes just ever so slightly. And you may say, I don't really care, but it definitely makes for much higher quality images. But if you care about certain details, that may be a little bit of an issue. So it's something to just be aware that it happens. But here you can see the before image, all this great detail in the hair and the skin. And as you slide it over, it's kind of doing some creative things with HDR and smoothing out areas, providing more detail. But it is amazing. This is absolutely the best image scaler that I've seen. It even beats the one that I paid, I don't know, like $90 for back a few months ago. Now, the reason why I don't have an account right now is the pricing on it is, in my opinion, is a little bit steep. It's $39 a month or $99 a month, but that comes with a caveat. That might be 100 or 250 larger scaled upscaling images. Like the quality that I'm working with, probably, I'd be getting 250, not 550, but definitely something. If you're interested in this and you're looking to do reproductions, or you want to be able to sell stock imagery on some of the services that let you sell stock AI imagery and so forth, you might want to get the highest quality image. And so that's something to consider. Okay, the last thing that's exciting my mind is the work that I'm cranking on right now, and I'm having a blast. I had a lot of fun this weekend. I'm making amazing things like this, and I'll show you some more work here in just a second. But this is a really cool painting that takes its inspiration. It's sort of an abstraction of the interior of record stores. So I spend a lot of time in record stores all over Ohio. And when I travel, anytime that I go to another city, I try to make it to the record stores. And I wanted to kind of capture the vibrancy and the energy that you feel when you're inside of a record store, because there's a lot of typography and a lot of graphics and visuals and stickers and promo pieces and band photos and merch and all kinds of cool things. And so this was an image that I was working on this weekend. I did a lot of cleanup work after the fact. So I generated this image using a number of experimental prompts. It took me a while to get some control over the color palette and do some interesting things with the composition. And then there were a lot of artifacts that I wanted to go back and clean up. So I went into Photoshop and used generative fill and the healing tool to get rid of a lot of the unnecessary things. So I've been creating lots of cool things like this. Let's see some other stuff just from the past week and weekend. So I was working on some ideas around boom boxes and cassettes. The record store was definitely a point of departure, and I started thinking about music influenced imagery. So this painting is essentially an abstract, if you will, of a boombox, and just pulling in some really vibrant colors. Took a lot of the color palette cues from the last image that you just saw, and I've been playing a lot with sort of these complementary triads of color and working on different compositions and so forth. I've been doing a number of pieces very similar to this. They kind of have a little bit of influence from Stuart Davis, a modern American modernist painter, and they feel a little mid-century modern, a little bit of maybe influence for me personally from some of the jazz album covers that you may have seen. So you might be feeling a little bit of that vibe in this imagery, which is really exciting. But I still consider this letter formations, because if you look really hard, you will see there are letter forms inside of this composition. You recognize some characters and portions of letters in here. And I would classify these as, these are sort of experimental album cover format, like a 12-inch record. So the square format is one that I'm playing with and doing a lot of really creative work in this space. It's another piece, kind of falls in between the last two images. You can see how I'm kind of building on this style, this look and feel, and playing with different layouts and structures in the images, definitely experimenting with the color palettes, and the content or the focus of these compositions. And I feel like I'm getting to a really great place with this style, sort of a flat painting, really crisp, a lot of bold geometry, very graphic work, and I absolutely love it. There's another piece I was playing with, introducing more pink into this palette and working through some of those colors, similar colors that you saw in a couple of the other image examples. That one could work well as a 12-inch record cover or a large 24 by 24 inch print. This one's really beautiful. I just love how striking some of the letter forms are, like that J and that V just really pops right out of this composition. But everything feels really balanced and controlled, and the colors being used well, and you can see the brush strokes starting to get some really good control through iterative explorations and the right prompts. This one's beautiful too. I love how the green brought this one really to life. So I'm really excited about this particular line. This one was fun. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't all just like super crisp. I wanted to work on more, several pieces that had more noticeable brush strokes and more character and a little bit more loose and expressive. And this is an example of a piece that I think turned out really well. This one's even more loose, even more expressive. You can really start to see some of the mistakes in the brush strokes, and some stuff is kind of like almost unfinished or just really quickly applied. Really like that composition. This is another really beautiful one. I just feel like this is so controlled and so crisp. Like, love it. I would love to get a nice big print of this one, or maybe even a canvas print. Might be a really interesting way to bring it to life. There's another great piece. I love the palette on this one. This one was very loose and expressive. Turned out really nice. Just feels really controlled. Even though I'm not controlling every aspect of it, I do like the amount of control that I'm starting to get within Leonardo AI. This one's got a lot of letter formations in it, and typography and glyphs and things like that. I think this came out really nice too. I love how it's all kind of sectioned out. Turned out really cool. And then this was the last piece I grabbed before I finish up demo today. This one was a little bit of a departure, working with some of the same colors, some of the basic ideas, but this one involves more almost like painted cut paper. So there's a little more tactile, a little more dimension to it, some shadows that come from these pieces layered on top of each other. Like in this area, you can see this is like kind of bent up and there's a little bit of shadow under it. But, all in all, I think these are turning out really cool. I'm really pleased with this particular departure that I got to this weekend. So that's demo. I'm glad that I could share, and excited to the next time that I get to demo more things that are exciting my mind and more work.